In this problem, they start by asking you what DF stands for, and that is the degrees of freedom in a problem. So what do we mean by degrees of freedom? The degrees of freedom, how we calculate this, is we look at the sample size and we subtract 1 from that when we're working with a t-distribution. And notice that they talked about a t-test here. So that's why I know that the degrees of freedom is the sample size minus 1. And I just write degrees of freedom is n minus 1. And that is 22 minus 1. So that's just going to be 21 in this particular problem. Now, what do we actually mean by degrees of freedom? Well, let's take an example where we have 5 boxes. And we're going to have 5 people come in. And how many people have a choice of which box they're going to take? So let's see this dramatic video that I have created. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. And now we have the first person came in and chose box 3. The second person chose box number 1. Then they chose box 4 and box 5. But the last person, who has the worst hair, unfortunately, and is very sad, they didn't have a choice. They had to take box number 2 because there were only 4 degrees of freedom with this sample size of 5. So if we come back to this problem where we're talking about 22 different video games, then the idea is that we would know the duration times of drug use in seconds in the particular video games. So maybe the first one was going for 7 seconds, and then 3 seconds, and then 25 seconds, and so on. We've got this whole list, and the idea is that we know what the mean is going to turn out to be for this sample, and we know that the mean is going to turn out to be, I don't know, 11. So if we list 21 of the different times for drug use, they could be any values at all, but once we've written down 21 of them and we know that the mean has to turn out to be 11, then we're going to be forced to make the last one whatever particular value it happens to be. So that's the idea with degrees of freedom, and that's how you work that problem. So it's really just as simple as taking the sample size minus 1. Now that's when we're working with a t-test, and that's the only test that we have degrees of freedom for right now. Later in chapter 11, I think it is, when we get to the chi-square test, we're going to see a different formula for degrees of freedom. But that's what we have for now.